So you finish painting your color wheel, but the paper is still wet. And if you look at the instructions, it says glue. We're going to staple because it dries faster. It says put this into your sketchbook, but you don't want to put a wet floppy piece of paper in your sketchbook because it's either going to stick the papers together or it's just going to like tear the part that you watercolored, and it looks beautiful, so you don't want to do that. So there are yellow hair dryers around the classroom, kind of around the perimeter by the windows. So same as when you dry your hair, you're going to dry this piece of paper. You don't want to turn it on like all the way high because it's just going to like make your paper fly around. So you want to keep it on like the low or medium setting. And you also don't want to like hold it straight up because the paper is just going to like fly around. So you're going to just set it down on the counter. And you want to make sure you're holding the paper down. I'm going to put this on low and just dry it really quick. Alright, so that's going to probably take a little bit longer for you because mine's not actually fully dry, but I don't want to waste your time. Then you're going to staple this in your sketchbook when it's actually all dry to the touch. Next, you have a few things that you need to clean up. So you have your watercolor palette, your water container, and your brush. So for the palette, I'm just going to use my sponge, and I'm going to gently just wipe out the mixing trays. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want it to be like semi-clean. That way the next person that comes in to use it isn't having to like work with your mess. Because we always like to leave the next class coming in how you came in. So we always want to make sure we're cleaning up after ourselves. That way no one else has to clean up after you, because that would piss you off, right? Like you don't want to clean up after the period that was in here before me, just like they don't want to clean up after you. Always, 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 please be responsible for your own materials, your own table area, and all of those things. So again, mine's not perfect, but it's pretty clean. I don't wipe up this dry one from like way before. If your sponge has a lot of watercolor pigment in it, you might want to rinse it out in the sink first. It'll be easier to clean that way. Okay, so that's pretty good. You can see there's still a little pigment. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Then, very important, because the palettes are all still wet from you using them. So all you're going to do is put them back up on the front table with everything just laid open. So this time I'm asking you not to really clean up after yourself. You're going to completely leave them open. Just set them down on the counter, and that's it. That way it dries. If it doesn't dry and you just close it up, it's going to make the pigment never dry, and it just turns into this really nasty like gel. And it never really comes back to how it was. It's just like kind of gross. So oftentimes I have to get rid of them. Again, these are your materials, not mine. So please, please, please make sure that you're taking care of them properly. Then you have your sponge, your brush. Sorry, my chicken is being really loud right now. And your water container. So I'm going to just dump out the water, and then you're just going to put it in the drying rack so it dries. Please keep it upside down so the water pours out. My sponge, I'm just going to run it under the water, and I'm going to squeeze it until the water is running clean. I'm then going to wring it out a little bit with my hand, and I'm going to put it in the drying rack. Now, this is the most important material to keep clean to clean properly and to keep clean, because if you don't, the brushes get ruined and then I have to throw them away. These get ruined probably more easy than anything else. At the end and midway through the year, I throw away more brushes than any other material because people aren't taking care of them properly. So with watercolor and with everything else, what you'll do is you will take a tiny bit of soap in your hand. You're going to rinse the brush off a little bit with some water from the sink. So my brush is like rinsed out a little bit. I have soap in my hand. Then I'm just going to gently swirl the brush in my hand with the soap. I don't ever use non-toxic paint, so this is like totally fine for your skin. I don't want you to be freaked out about it. It's absolutely fine for you to be touching it. And so I just wanted to show you that you can see the soap is actually kind of green from the pigment. So it is important for like the brush care that you make sure you're using soap when you wash your brushes. You can actually hold multiple brushes at the same time while you do this. You don't have to do it individually. If you have a lot of pigment on it, you can kind of gently like squish them with your fingers. Then you're going to rinse everything off. And this is the part that people tend to forget, is that when you're putting it in the drying rack, it absolutely needs to be brush side up. So brush side up, brush in the air. Please, please, please have your brush always in the air, because if it is facing brush side down, you can see that it is actually bending the bristles, and they will dry that way. So think about like when you take a shower at night, if you're a person that showers at night and you go to sleep on your hair, it's usually like all crazy the next morning. And then oftentimes you have to rinse your hair again. Paintbrushes are like that, except you can't really fix it. So absolutely, please always have your brushes bristle side up.